Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been well over 2 years, probably about 2.5 years since I made the last video. But I've gotten some comments and some people wondering, what's going on with the projects and whatnot. And so here we are, 2.5 years later, not a whole lot of progress made. But let me kind of get you guys up to speed. So last video, we left off with this car. And we took this car, to the dyno. We got it tested. If I remember off the top of my head, it made 242 horses to the wheels, and I want to say like 208 pound-feet of torque, right? And so I was excited about that. But what happened was after I, drove the car a little bit here and there, the what was it? It was breaking up at 4,000 RPM. And so it was pretty bad to the point where it wasn't really drivable. It would like really, jerk pretty bad, and it wouldn't stop jerking until it eventually like got past 4,000 RPM. So, and then I ended up moving from Florida to Arizona. So I had to have this car transported. And so the same place that did the tune, like the tune is good, with the exception of the 4,000 RPMs. The thing that I was excited about most was somewhere in the middle of the power band where the torque started to rise or whatever. It was 50 more pound-feet of torque than the previous, I guess, partial tune when the alternator died. So the car feels completely different, like it's a beast of a car. And I was excited to get out on the road and, drive it and just kind of test it, draggy it, all that stuff, and I wasn't able to do that. And so now that I'm in Arizona, I need a catalytic converter. And so I started taking the exhaust apart, and I got all this exhaust stuff in here. I have to get a cat, so I'm gonna have to put a cat on the car, and then catalytic converter, and then kind of route it, kind of snake it up, and then back down and have it come out the back, and I'll be done with this, and then I should be able to take this car, get it emissions tested, pass, all that good stuff. And then I'm aware of the, going into K-Pro and setting the sensors to ready and whatnot, but I want to put the cat on just to make sure that I never have to worry about that issue, it failing the visual test or whatever, right? So this, where we left off with this car. And then with this car, I drove it, put it together, drove it around the neighborhood. Everything was, pretty good. And I was mostly impressed with the fact that it was kind of like factory smooth. Like it didn't have a whole bunch of vibrations like this one with the solid mounts. This has got the innovative mounts, and this has got the stock mounts with the MAP stock mount adapters, basically, right? So, shout out to MAP for making the pretty over time, just with the improvements, a pretty solid kit. So anyway, so this car, took it to a shop, and they were gonna kind of finish fabbing up like the mounts for the air water intercooler and the piping for it and all that stuff, right? And so I was happy where what I saw with the car, and then I saw a two-step, tune being like performed on the car or whatever, right? It was like a YouTube short or something like that, and so I was excited about that. And afterwards, I guess the alternator died, and then eventually a blown head gasket. So I was kind of, going back and forth with them to figure out like what was going on, like where are the updates, where's the progress, like where are we with the car. And basically, it's almost as if I didn't reach out, I wasn't going to get the information. I just expected everything to go, straight through, smooth, and I get the horsepower numbers and all that stuff, and then I transport the car across the country and drive it and be happy about it. So anyway, didn't work out that way. This is the motor that was in it, and the head gasket's blown, the alternator was bad, and so what I ended up doing was I got another JDM K24 because I want to just run it with a stock JDM K24, JDM K24A. And so that's what this is, another one. And I found this valve cover with the ports on it. They're gonna kind of be in the way of the injectors or the plugs, and so hopefully this one right here won't be a problem. We'll see. And but I love the color of the valve cover, and then it just so happens that the wheels, they look like Avid AV01 like replicas or something like that. I don't know, but I'll run those on this at first just because I got this deal on them and I had them on a car, and eventually I'll upgrade into, you know, something a little bit wider, especially because the car is going to be turbo and whatever else, right? So at this point I have to get the harness installed, and then I'll start, you know, installing the engine into the car. Now, a few things that I noticed that I wasn't quite happy about was the fact that the boost control lines, like, so, you know, I paid these people to do this stuff, right? The boost control lines are cut. The Mac electronic boost control was just cut out and completely removed from the system. So those wires are cut. So I'm gonna have to, you know, as I'm putting the harness in, I'm gonna have to, you know, figure out all that wiring and whatnot. And then there was something else that I don't remember off the top of my head. I started to, like, I don't have my whiteboard where I kept track of everything, right? And so I need to get another one so I can kind of make sure that I really keep track of everything that I do. Like, I love checklists. So anyway, so that's where we are with this car. What else is there? So this engine, I'm going to eventually, you know, take it apart, and I think I'm going to do the 12.5 to 1 forged internals, you know, pistons with rods. So I think I'm going to do that myself. So I'll just kind of take my time and get around to it whenever I want, whenever I feel like it. It's hot out here in Arizona, by the way. It took all day long for the garage to get down to 85 degrees. It came out here a few hours ago and it was still 100. But to be fair, I didn't turn the unit on until probably 10, 11 o'clock this morning. And then I realized over time that it was at 70. For whatever reason, it defaulted to 70 instead of 61, which is, I guess, the lowest setting. And so it's a possibility that it'll keep the garage a lot cooler if I get up early on a weekend morning and start it. I'm not going to start it overnight. Somebody suggested that I do that, but I don't think that makes sense to me anyway, because if something comes up and I'm not able to be out here and work on it, then I'm running this little AC unit for nothing, right? So anyway, this is 2-way RFE that I bought, and I tried to figure out if I could make this up to a GT4 transmission, specifically I think it's the E154F, right? So it's the ST205 transmission. And basically you can grind some material off of this and grind a little bit of material off the transmission, and they won't mate up together. It just doesn't work. And so I don't know if there's a difference between a 205 and 185 transmission, but I ground off so much material on the other side of this engine that there's a hole in the crankcase, and so this is basically going to just go to the junk. There's nothing else I want or need to do with this, and instead what I'm going to end up doing is like, I'm just, this will be a spare engine for another day. I believe this only needs a head gasket. I don't think it necessarily needs to be machined and so on and so forth. But just the fact that I know I want to make more power out of it, I'll hold off and I'll do all of that stuff when I finally do get around to it. But what I'm looking at for the Celica is basically putting a, this is a built, so Forge internals, 2 liter. So this is a K20A2 with Forge internals. And then this was a head that I got off of somebody that he poured it himself. And after thinking about it, I wasn't sure if I wanted to just put it together and run it. Like, I want to get it tested like thoroughly to make sure that the port job is good. There's not going to be pieces of metal inside that are too thin and they're going to like break off and, you know, get sucked into the engine and so on and so forth, right? And so I want to have this test, like I want to give this off to a machine shop and have them like look it over and make sure it's good to go before I run it. But then inside in the house, I found somebody selling a rebuilt, so like just really good, clean, like stock-ish, but kind of like remanufactured, but like somebody who takes his time and do everything right. K20A2 head, and so that head is going to go on this, and this one will eventually be used for a Frank. So more than likely, when I do the high compression pistons in that motor over there, this is going to be the head that goes on to it. And you know, I'll hopefully be closer to the I guess the 280 horsepower mark with the compression, and then the Frank, the K20 head. And so, you know, I just want to kind of creep towards it, maybe even, so like right now this has got the dropping cams, and so basically I'm gonna grab a pair, I guess 3.2 cams, and, you know, do everything hopefully just one time for the next time I do a, you know, uninstall and install in this car. And so my NA car should be pretty close to 300 wheel, right? And so we'll see. And then I'll try to figure out if I absolutely need E85 to get those numbers or whatever the case. So anyway, this K20, this Forge K20, the goal now is to do a Forge K20 install or swap into the GT4. And so basically the GT4's got, you know, old electronics and the distributor system and all this like rotor and cap and all this crap, right? I'm just tired. I'm completely over it. I absolutely, you know, like some people are like, oh yeah, I love to go in and take this kind of stuff apart, and no, not me. I don't want to deal with all that shit like every 3,000 miles or 2 oil changes or whatever the case is. So I want to swap the heavier, and you know, like the power potential is going to be pretty similar, and so I'll swap in a lighter motor. I'll have a more reliable, you know, like ignition system and all that stuff, and I won't have to worry about the valve float and all this other stuff that, you know, because I got the engine is built to be able to run like 9,000 RPM redline with the work that was done to the head in the GT4. And so basically I can give up a little bit of that. Keep in mind the K20 is going to be able to run a lot higher than the K24. Let's just say stock for stock, right? And so that's kind of what I'm looking at, is I just want to throw this in, figure out what I need to do as far as the axles, the drive shaft, and the rear diff, and then take my time and figure out like what I need to do for the wiring harness to get everything to work, and then just get it out on the road and test it, you know, just drive it and then see how easily it's daily drivable and go from there. But that's the goal for the GT4, and it kind of pains me to do that because it is like I imported it from Italy. It is a Carlos Sainz model, but to be like pretty frank, pretty honest, I bought the car in 2012, and I've only driven it for probably 2 years of the whole time that I've owned the car. And so I don't want to deal with the old brittle the crappy plugs, the wiring harness, and how many times whoever before me and then myself has been, like doing stuff, and I just don't want to deal with that. And I could reach out to, like Rywire and Boomslang and whatever, these wiring companies. I can reach out to these companies and say, hey, I have a Carlos Sainz Celica. I want a harness made. Can you do it? And basically the answer is no. And so there's a guy on Facebook Marketplace, somewhere in Europe. He's working on putting together like a complete engine harness. And so I'm kind of keeping my eye out for that. And whenever he does post updates, I see him. So it's only a matter of time. But in the meantime, I'm actually going to start. I shouldn't say in the meantime. Once these two are done, I'm going to start on this project. And I'll buy the harness, the 3S GTE harness from this guy regardless, because I do have the GT4 and I do have basically two GT4 engines, one built, one stock one torn apart. But that, all of that, I want to push forward with the K-swap of the GT4, because I do believe that it'll be probably the I'm gonna just say the best example, or the best way to make the car as reliable as possible. Do I think I'll break axles and all that stuff? Like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for the most part, the only other thing I was worried about is with the CRV transmission and rear diff, like the gear ratios, like what the top speed would be. And when I think about that, that would be important if I'm racing a car. If I just enjoy the car, just drive it from time to time, just around town, where I guess I would probably do somewhere like 90, 100 max, just because the roads are clear, then it should be fine. And so I think that for the GT4, this is going to be the best way forward. So that's the NA car. Just need a retune, basically, a cat install and then a retune. Turbo car, the whole install, and gotta make sure I fix the wiring that's been cut, and then wire up the gauges and then take it to get it tuned. And then the GT4. So the BMW, for anybody who's looking at the channel because they want to know what's going on with the BMW, I had passenger right side suspension collapse, and so that car's being, like, the suspension is being replaced. And so I went with the Bilstein B6 all the way around with Dynon springs and bump stops. And so it should have a tighter, handling and whatnot. So excited to see what that feels like once I get it back. That car's been just sitting for months, just waiting for the right time, opportunity to kind of save some money and get that done. And what else? Shelby is, just stock. I don't do anything with that. So if anybody's on the channel because it's Shelby, it literally just sits. I drive it very, very seldom. So I think that's it. But yeah, so there's your update. I wanted to make this as quick and simple as possible. No editing, but thorough. And then just kind of show, like, yeah, I'm still here. I'm still making some progress. For the most part, the progress over the past couple of years has been just, trying to keep in mind what I wanted to do as far as the projects. And then just waiting for the right deal to come along when I could afford to pull the strings in or pull the trigger and make it happen, right? To grab the parts that I wanted. And yeah, just kind of slowly accumulate, and then when the time comes, as far as being here in Arizona, when it's not too hot, get out here, run the AC unit, get in the garage, do a little bit of work whenever I can, and then what's, I guess I had to come to the realization that the only way that I could get this garage cool enough is to open the door and have the air from the house blow into the garage. It absolutely does not get cool enough in here running that AC unit if air from the house is not blowing into the garage as well. So, and then 85 seems to be the sweet spot. It doesn't get much cooler and it doesn't get much warmer with the unit and the door open. So we are in mid-July, and so by October, late October, pretty much Halloween, temperature drops like very sudden, and I should be able to get out here a lot more often and get a lot more stuff done. But coming out here first thing in the morning, turning on the unit, trying to get some work done is too hot. It's just entirely too hot. So there's the update. Thanks for everybody who subscribed over the past 2 years without me uploading any content at all. And, for the people who ask questions, I try to, as soon as I notice them, I try to get in there and respond. Just to let you guys know I'm alive, I'm well, and I'm still, the projects haven't come to a complete halt. For the most part, it's just, collecting what I need to still realize the goal, the overall goal being to make as much power with the NA car, and then build the turbo car. NA car is going to be a raw, like track type build, and then the turbo car is going to be like a more, smooth street driver, whatever, right? And then just drive them both, make my comparisons, and then determine what I like best between both. So like a compare and contrast, right? And so booster NA, unfortunately, NA's got to be like raw track ready or whatever, but it is what it is. I don't have 4 spotters to do a raw in the street NA and then a raw in the street turbo. But yeah, I think this is I'm still excited to see what the outcome is. And so like I said, that's the update. I'm still here, projects are still ongoing, and I'll try to get out here a little bit more often, like every other weekend maybe. I should be able to get out here and make some progress. So and just to give you an idea, I came out here one day and I was trying to get the harness uninstalled from the motor, drop the motor, and then disconnect the harness from inside the car. And once I was back in that little tiny, like, cramped space with no air circulation, oh, I was dying. It sucked. That's probably one of the roughest things that I've done as far as maintenance on these cars. So yeah, so like I said, there's the update. Projects ongoing, new ideas, and it's just a slow work in progress until it cools down, and then there should be some real progress. And then of course, once October hits, I'm going to try to make as much progress as possible on both cars before April, which is when it starts to get warm again here in Arizona. So thanks for watching. Thanks for all the new subscribers. Thanks for all of the old subscribers. Thanks for everybody who's keeping an eye out, just waiting for the next piece of content to drop. And see you guys in the next video.